Okay, we are live. Hello,
Perfect.
welcome
Hi,
everyone.
everyone.
Yes. Okay, we'll just wait a little bit for everyone to join us, but we should be live right now. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's Q&A with Pepper Winters. Very excited to have you, Pepper, here with us and to discuss your fantasy book, your high fantasy romance, When a Moth Loved a
Thank you.
Bee. Yes,
Thanks so
so
much for having me.
of course, if anyone has any questions about this book or any other Pepper Winters book,
Amazing.
yeah, just drop them in the comments. But while we're waiting for everyone, um, do you want to share what you're reading right now? If you are reading anything?
What am I reading? I'm not reading anything fictional at the moment. I'm reading what I've just finished the Wim Hof method. So it's talking about like breathing techniques and ice cold therapy and all the rest of that. So that's I really enjoyed that, and I know that's probably going to sound a bit strange, but the difference it's made in my writing is just insane. Like I'm I can't stop my fingers from typing at the moment, so I'm loving it. Um, and what else have I just downloaded? The title is avoiding me, but yeah, I'm kind of on a non-fiction kick at the moment. So lots of yoga books and meditation books, and just trying to find the zen.
Do you normally like read nonfiction while you're writing, or do you ever also
Yeah, I think normally while I'm writing, especially when I'm in such like this, like I say, I haven't had this kind of in flow business for a very long time. I used to be able to tap in, and like the biggest word count I've ever had was 15,000 words in 3 hours, and that was when I wrote the third debt in the Indebted series. So we're going back like 6, 7 years ago, and I remember just going into a completely different headspace, and I woke up from that, and I was like, bloody hell, I wrote 15,000 words. That is not the norm by any means. And as I've kind of got older and remembered to live life off my laptop, um, I was probably averaging about 2.5 to 3,000 words a day. And I've always had a goal, as long as I was doing 20,000 words a week, that was pretty good. Like, that's a pretty good routine that I can do. I can keep that up quite easily and it gets stuff done. However, this book, I mean, I only started this book I think I started about the 14th of February. Yeah, it was Valentine's Day I started it. And I've already got 106,000 words.
Oh my
So
god.
that's in less than a month. So yeah,
That is
it just pours out of
wow.
me. So
Mhm.
yeah, so like I say, it's not by any means the norm. And I'm sure other writers will be like, oh, you bitch, how are you doing that? And believe me, I don't know. If I knew, I would say. But I'm just going to go with it for as long as it lasts. And if I completely crash and burn once this book's on paper, then that's understandable because it's, yeah.
So
So yeah, so
the 100,000, you're talking about the sequel, right?
no, I'm not actually. The fantasy book, again, I wrote that. That's the longest book that's ever taken me to write. It had 5 different versions and about 4 different rewrites, and it took me a whole year. That wasn't, again, it was the smaller word count, saying 2,000 words a day, having quite a few days off. I think looking back now, I just needed time to kind of fill up that creativity well by doing other creative stuff. So I'm naturally quite an artistic person. Like I love to paint, I love to draw, I love to craft, sculpt. But with writing, I find that I get all the creativity I need from writing. So when I'm writing, and like I am right now, at the end of the day, I'm not drained from it, but I feel content and completed with that creativity drive. So I don't feel like I need to chase it. Whereas with When a Moth Loved to Be, I was doing a lot of diamond art. I don't know if you've done that.
Diamond art?
Um, Diamond art. It
Oh.
sounded like a friend of mine put it on to me, and I was like, that sounds ridiculous, but it's actually really good. It's quite therapeutic, and it's just hundreds of thousands of little diamonds that it's kind of like a cross stitch pattern, and you stick it on this canvas, and you just make the picture. So I was doing that a lot. I was doing a lot of tiny house, like Nalini Singh, who's a fantasy author in New Zealand. She put me onto those. So you make like your room just like miniature version. So I think I was getting a lot of my creativity from out of writing, and that really definitely curtailed how quickly I could write when a Moth Loved to Be. So this is all a very long-winded question to say, no, this is not the sequel I'm writing. I needed a break from it. Sorry, I went off on 2 huge tangents.
No, you're fine. So it was just a moth and a bee that you wrote like so much in so short of a time.
Yeah,
Wow.
so I needed a break from it. So
Yeah,
so
that's
the book I'm writing
understandable.
right now is a standalone. It's got
Okay.
nothing to do with it. So the second book will be coming, of course, 100%, but not right now. My brain needed a break.
Okay. So we have some comments. Trina, that's amazing. I'm so excited for this
Oh,
new book.
thank you, me too.
Oh, question. How do you go about your writing process? Do you plan extensively first? Where do you get your ideas from?
That's a pretty good question because I like to kind of break all the rules on this. So I like to think of myself as, oh, I do try and go in with a plan. So, for instance, as with the Indebted series, inspiration struck out of nowhere, and that's how my ideas come from. I don't sit down and think, right, I want to write a book about a guy like this and a girl like this. It's not how it works. I've been invited to be part of a lot of collaborations in a lot of different box sets in different worlds, writing different stories in different worlds. And I just can't do that because unless I have an idea that strikes out of nowhere and something that I'm quite passionate about, I can't write it. I don't feel it. So inspiration, it just hits me like a ton of bricks. And normally the whole thing is in one. It's kind of like a script just opens up in my head, and I know the beginning, lots of things that I need to hit, and then the end. But I don't know how the character is going to go from here to here. With the Indebted series, for instance, that's 7 books. So I knew every beginning and every cliffhanger, but I wasn't entirely sure what happened in between. Um, some days I will sit down and think, okay, I need to plot out the next few chapters. And then some days, those chapters that I've plotted out get completely thrown away and I do something different. The book I'm writing at the moment, like I said, it came out of nowhere. It literally hit me over. I had to put aside the book I was writing to write this one. That's how it came in so strong. And every day I think I know how it's going to go, and every day it goes somewhere different, and it's even better than what I'd imagined it was going to be. So I'm really going along for the ride at the moment. I get to read it at the same time as write it, so it's awesome.
I like how you said you know exactly how a book starts and how it
Mm.
ends with the cliffhanger. Do you ever like come up with try or do you try to come up with the craziest cliffhanger to just kill your readers?
Sometimes, I mean, obviously I'm known for dark romance and romantic suspense and quite angsty books. They're not for everyone. Like you've got to want to be hurt in the book and be okay with some dark things. But when I'm writing a book, I'm never like I said, I'm at the mercy of the characters. I can't really say what a book's going to do because it could go on a completely different tangent. And that's exactly what happened with The Boy and His Ribbon, which it's not a romance, it's a love story. In my mind, it's a romance because they fall in love, and it follows. It's about 30 years, I think, from the first book to the second book, and I knew exactly what would happen to the main character in that book. I knew he wouldn't be making it. That's not a spoiler. That book's been out for years. And I can't tell you how many times I try to rewrite that, how many times I message my beta readers literally in a panic attack saying, I'm going to get cancelled for this. I can't do this. People are going to lose all faith in me. But I had no choice. That was how his story came in, and that was how it was going to be. So.
Yeah, someone said the ribbon duet destroyed me.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I know it destroyed me writing it. Believe me, I tried to change it. I really did. There's so many versions and drafts on my laptop where that doesn't happen. But yeah, bloody Ren, he's like, no, that's not right. That's not how it is.
Oh, do you ever cry when you write your books? Because they're so
No,
emotional. No, you
no,
don't.
I think I might be broken. I'm not a crier. I'm not in real life either. I've never cried at a movie. The one and only time I've cried was when my rabbit died.
Aw.
So,
I mean
and
that's
that was a sob.
understandable.
Yeah. But no, I haven't ever cried when writing a book. Whether that makes something wrong with me, maybe I'm not sure. But
No, no.
like I say, I'm not doing it to the characters. The characters are kind of channeling it through me. So what they're feeling, I feel, of course, but it's separate, if you know what I mean. So what Della was feeling is different to what Ren was feeling, and I get to switch between the two. So yeah.
Well, going back to your new book, I guess, do you want to talk about or give a little blurb about what it's about for anyone who hasn't read it yet?
Sure. So basically, it's a fantasy book that everything that you think you know in the first book will be proven to be. I can't. It's really, really hard to talk about this book because there's so many layers to it, and the first book's quite subtle. The first book could be seen as a lot of book for not a lot of story, but it's putting in the groundwork for some crazy stuff that's coming. So again, I can't really go into details, but basically, it's about two people who are amnesiac. They've completely forgotten their past for a reason, and it's them remembering slowly throughout the book. But what they remember and what they are telling the reader, let's just say they're unreliable narrators. So,
That makes
so
me nervous
some of it,
too.
yeah. But no, it's a lot of fun. I find I read fantasy myself. When I'm not writing, that's the genre I read. I love fantasy. My favorite series of all time have all been fantasy. But writing it is very different. It's you have to hold an entire world in your head. So it's not just, oh, he drank a glass of water. It's like, well, what was the glass made of? Where did they get the water from? Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got to kind of think, okay, well, there's different rules that you've made for this world, and every interaction that the character has within this world has to fit within the rules you've made. So it's not just a matter of saying, oh, I walked into a room and said hi. I found it quite complicated. Saying that, I also found it hugely rewarding because you get to literally create a world. So I'm very, very excited about the next book. So yeah. But again, I haven't really given you anything because I can't really.
It's a high fantasy romance with
There you
star-crossed
go.
lovers who have amnesia, and then they
There you
slowly
go.
uh, slowly remember their memories and who they really are.
Exactly. There we go. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, I personally was sold on the whole amnesia part. I love
Oh,
amnesia
thanks.
in my books
Me
and
too.
romances. So, I guess what was the inspiration behind, like, writing this fantasy? Your first fantasy, right?
It is, yeah. Well, I've written all my life, and I've got lots of fantasies. I've written lots. I've written about a tribe that live in the Amazon rainforest who have natural powers from the trees and things. I've written quite a lot of fantasy, just not published it.
Okay.
So maybe one day I'll polish them up and throw them up on Amazon. Who knows? But yeah, my first official one, and yeah, it's I'd like to write more, but like I say, I think it's definitely a brain exercise.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Mm.
Like, do you have to I know a lot of authors who have, huge worlds and stuff, they usually have little guides that they,
Hmm.
reference and do anything with. Did you have to make one for yourself just to keep track
Yeah,
of all the characters and what was going on?
yeah, for
Yeah.
the very first time ever, like I don't like when I'm writing, I have a notepad, and that's it. And like I said, I see the characters so vividly, that I don't have to flick back and think, oh, what color were his eyes again? Because I know that they're like literally standing in front of me. Whereas with the fantasy book, there are so many people, so many animals, so many cities and countries and clans and cultures that yes, I have a bit of an almanac going. That's about 30 pages. So because like I say, there's so many layers upon layers, so I know exactly what's going to happen in the future books, but I can't introduce them yet. But I have to introduce enough that you can see them coming, but you don't know what's coming, if you know what I
Foreshadowing.
mean. So,
Foreshadowing,
correct. Yeah,
uh-huh.
yeah, yeah.
Um, ooh, how long do you think the Destiny Chronicles will go?
I know how many books I want it to be, but I don't want to say that out loud because I have an option of making it shorter if the storyline doesn't go where I think it's going to go. Like I say, I'm very open to what the characters tell me to do. So it could be 3 books, it could be 7 books, it could be, 2 books. I have no idea. So at this point, don't know. I'm so sorry. I don't have an exact answer. But yeah,
You do like to write long series, but do you
I
like to
do.
read long series too? Do you
Yes,
yeah?
yes.
You're the type of
That's
person.
my kryptonite. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I look for. Like say, the Clan of the Cave Bear is one of my all-time favorites. Each one of those books is about 300,000 words, and there's six books of those. Terry Goodkind, all his books are over 300,000 words. I think one of them's over 400,000 words, and there's 12 of those. So I get so excited that if I stumble across a well-written, well-rounded fantasy, and I'm like, oh my god, there's 20 books for me to sink my teeth into, I'm in heaven. Because then you don't have to think about what you're reading; you just get to suck in, and they become part of your world. So yeah, I am. I'm a huge, huge fan of sagas.
Do you like going into a series that's completed, or do you like going it like as it's releasing?
I don't really mind. I remember when Taylor wrote The Daughter of Smoke and Bone.
Yes.
I stumbled upon her first book when the first book came out, and I was obsessed with her writing. She was just painted this beautiful masterpiece in my head, and it really irked me that I had to wait for the next book. But it's fine. Like, you just wait, and time goes so quick anyway that the next one's out before you know it. And I think what I'm going to do with my book is, because it will be a while before the next one comes out, purely because I have another couple of books after the one I'm writing right now. This one I'm writing as a standalone, and then I'm going back to dark romance because I really miss it. So I'm doing a spin-off dark romance series for Monsters in the Dark. So I'm very excited.
Wait,
And then I'll go back to the romance.
a new book in the Monsters in the Dark series? Is that what you said?
Yes,
Oh my
yes,
god.
yeah. So
That was
the first book is
that
the
was the
first book's
first.
called Ruby Tears,
Uh-huh.
and it follows. So for those who read it, Q, obviously his dad was a bit of a prick, to put it bluntly, and he kept a harem of women. And of course, these women were all released by Q when he came of age at 16, and they obviously had some children. So Q has lots of half siblings running around that he's not quite aware of, and this follows one of his half siblings. So
Oh my god, that's so exciting.
yes, I'm really excited. And of course, thanks to Q's father's nasty tendencies, that has come through his siblings. So you're getting a Q 2.0, really. So it's I'm loving writing it.
Yeah, I remember reading Tears of Tess years ago. Oh my gosh. It
It's
was
been a
like,
while.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was. I think it might have been one of the earlier like dark romance
Mm-hmm.
that I read, and I was like, whoa, oh my god, what's going on?
I must admit, I was very, very lucky that again, I was writing another book at the time. Q and Tess just popped into my head, fully formed within 6 weeks. I had it on paper. And then I was very lucky that I kind of caught the wave of dark romance. I was one of the first ones to hit that wave. And I'll always be forever grateful, because that was the book that kind of launched my career. So thank you very much for reading it.
Yeah. Ooh, okay, someone asked, how dark is this new book? Is it as dark as like the rest of the books in the series?
Yes, it's probably slightly darker, if I'm completely honest. Yeah, there's some shenanigans that go on.
Which book do you consider the darkest that you've ever read so far, written so far?
It really depends on your version of dark. Like, some people can tolerate such dark content that my books are like puppy dogs to them. And I mean, I remember when I first released Tears of Test, I got there was about 12 trolls that came after me saying this is not dark, this is ridiculous. And it really kind of opened my eyes to the online community, because I wasn't online before then. So it really depends on your tolerance. Me personally, I think the darkest book I've ever written was The Ribbon Duet, because sickness is a trigger for me.
Mhm.
My mum and everyone has been touched by sickness of a family member to some degree. But if you're kind of basing it on BDSM and kidnapping and things, then probably the monsters. What happens to Tess in Quintessentially Q, the second book, is pretty gnarly. So yeah, probably those two.
Yeah, I'm curious what everyone else like watching considers
Yeah.
your darkest book that you've written so far. But we did get a couple questions about the Fable books. Do
Yes.
you think you go back and
Sorry,
write more?
Yes, I will definitely. The next book in that is Jareth. So Fable. Oh, sorry, I just kicked the thing. Um, I'm sitting on the floor. I always sit on the floor, and I just want to kick the stand over. Anyway, but yeah, definitely. I've got so many books coming out. It's insane. Actually, last year I was kind of toying with retiring. If I'm completely honest, I was like, don't know if I'm cut out for being online anymore. And I really enjoyed, like, say, kind of doing my own thing during the day. But this year has proven that is never ever going to happen. Like, my imagination, I just love it. I was born to write, so I won't ever be stopping. So yes, more Fables, happiness books, more Moth books. Oh, there's so many books coming.
It's hard to pick which one to focus on, right?
It is sometimes, yeah. It is. You've like say, well, I was writing the Dark Romance, the spin-off from Monsters in the Dark, and I'm absolutely loving it. Like I'm 23,000 words into that, and every day I was like, excellent. What can I make these poor characters live through? And then out of nowhere came this book. It's called Lunar Mare, my standalone that I'm writing, and I had no choice but to write it. So that sometimes you got to go with the flow. You know, if I'd have said no to that book, I wouldn't have been able to give my full concentration to the Dark Romance, and I want to. Like, I'm dying to write that. I just had to get this story out of my head first.
Mhm. So who has been your favorite hero or heroine to write about?
Oh, that's like asking what if I have a favorite child. They're all different. Obviously the originals, Tess and Q, 100%. I love both of them. I think they're both tormented in different ways, but complete each other together. Ren and Della will always have a very special place in my heart, just purely because they were on a farm. I live on a farm. Like, there's a lot of me in that book. Just my whole lifestyle kind of thing. Even I have an uncle called John. So John, Wilson and things. Um, who else? Yeah, I love all of them. Like Pym and Elder from the Dollar series. Again, they all touch me differently. So and of course, Runa and Darrow are just um, again, they're so big in my head that I know what they are. So I don't like talking about the troops because I'm so afraid of slipping. But they are just the top of the top for me. They're pretty special.
So a similar-ish question. Do you have like which character for you was the most difficult for you to write and which one was the easiest?
Most difficult one to write. Oh, I think where I struggle is where the book comes in strong and then it fades a little bit in my head. So like the body painter, that came in really strong. I actually remember where I was. I was on a beach in Lamai in Koh Samui in Thailand, and out of nowhere, this book unfolded, and I was like, wow, that's an awesome book. What I should have done is written it straight away, but I was under contract to Grand Central at the time to deliver the Ruin and Rule and Sin and Suffer biker series. So that kind of got pushed aside, and by doing that, it kind of lost its vividity, if you know what I mean. So I struggled to write that because I knew that there was such a good book there, but it kind of faded in my head. So that's probably the hardest one. Destroyed was also quite difficult, mainly probably because it was a standalone, and I struggle writing standalones, which is funny to say because I'm writing one right now and I'm loving it. But yeah, different day, different problems.
I mean, is it technically a standalone? It's still, part of another series.
Destroyed.
No, your new book.
Oh no, Lunar Mare is completely different. So this is like on its own. It's the Dark Romance, the spin-off from Dark Romance, the Monsters in the Dark. That's a series. That's called the Jewelry Box series. So that's completely different.
Okay. Some great questions here about your writing. When you first started writing, did you ever doubt your writing ability? Like, did you think that there might be something else that would be easier? And did the people around you support your writing passion?
Oh, that's like three questions in one. Okay, so the first part I'll enhance. Did I ever doubt? Of course, every day. I mean, I actually had when I actually dropped out of school. I wasn't fascinated. I didn't believe in the educational system. Let's put it that way. I was born and raised in Hong Kong. I did go to the school assistant in Hong Kong, and then I was homeschooled when I hit high school age. So by the time we moved to New Zealand, I kind of done school. So I became a bit of a rebel and kind of was like, okay, see, I don't need you. And I remember clearly my English teacher saying I would never amount to anything. So if I'd have let him get in my head, then I wouldn't have written. But I've always written, I've always been scribbling something down. And I can safely say it took me about 5 books, 5 bad books, to say that I was able to self-teach myself. Like I was on different forums. Back 12 years ago, there was a place called Curie Tracker where you could go and find like-minded readers and writers, and you could swap books and edit each other's and learn through helping and getting critique. So yeah, definitely, I always doubt. And even now, even some days I look at what I've written and think, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, how I've got this far is beyond me. I don't know how I've been able to hoodwink everyone that I know how to write. And do I think doing something would have been easier? Yes, of course, definitely. Some days, like writing, being an author in today's world isn't just, you're not just a writer, you're a CEO, you're the advertising manager. You've got to have really good time management. You can't procrastinate. There's so many elements that go into writing the book, producing the book, promoting the book. So yeah, some days I'm like, it would be so much easier to go and work at the supermarket and just, peep things and that'll be done. We're going to just be writing. Yes and no. It's a big risk for someone to say, right, this is my dream, because let's face it, there's so many artists, everywhere, like painters and creators and film directors and actors who will never get to the level of income that you can support yourself. So I'm incredibly lucky, and not a day goes by that I don't pinch myself that I get to do this. So yeah, my husband was very supportive right from the get-go, and we were lucky that we owned our own business in Australia where we were living at the time, and he was a roofer and I ran the books and sent him to jobs and things. And while I wasn't doing invoicing and things like that, I would bring out my little laptop and start typing. So I use my free time a lot to chase my dreams. And I think that's probably what you do need to do. Like, be realistic and keep a job that will keep you alive, but also chase your dreams on your time off, and don't let like distractions of social media and TV kind of steal that time that you could be putting into your passion. So yeah, that's my very long-winded answer.
So I know you brought up the Ruin and Rule series.
Mhm.
I actually love that series. Would you ever write another biker romance like that one?
Yeah, I mean, Grasshopper, who was the 2IC to Killian, I'd love to kind of delve into his story because I really liked him. But yeah, I kind of, Ruin and Rule is tricky because it is my book, of course, but it's my only traditionally published book. So in my mind, Grand Central own it. So I always feel like, what can I do with that book? What am I allowed to do with that book? And I don't know if I am allowed to do a spin-off. I probably am. So maybe in the future, never say never.
That would be very exciting. Oh, sweet comment. I was obsessed with your Indebted series. I never read anything like it. I first read your book a few years ago.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, the Indebted series has always got a very special place in my heart because I'm English. I don't know if my accent comes across anymore because I've been married to a Canadian for 17 years and lived in New Zealand. But when we were in England visiting family and going to a book signing in Edinburgh, we went to a place called Waddington Manor in Buckinghamshire. The minute I walked through those grounds, that was Hawksbridge Hall, and Jethro Hawk unfolded in his horrible family. And I knew I had to, I literally started writing it that afternoon. So all of the medieval torture and things, that's all the history that I was brought up on. Like, I learned about the Anglo-Saxons and the Vikings, and it's horrible what people would do to one another. It's absolutely barbaric, but it makes good fiction. Sucks that it's fact, but
right. Yeah. It fits very well with dark romance.
It really does, yeah. And I'd love to go back to a world like that because, as sick as it makes me sound, I like really pushing people to the extremes. And when you're being tortured by very, very villainous devices, it's quite easy to tap into how far would you go to survive.
This question, what do you think now of the books written under your real name?
Oh God, like I say, everyone evolves from, you know, just like everything in life, really. I mean, you look back at what you were doing 10 years ago, it doesn't matter if it's an art or whatever, there's always evolution. So yeah, I'd like to think I've improved, hopefully.
How do you come up with character appearances?
Again, they just come to me. I don't really have much say. They just appear fully formed, and I just write them down as they are. I'm very lucky that way. I know I've got a friend of mine who I write with on a daily basis. She lives in America, and she has aphantasia, so she can't actually picture anything in her head. And I didn't realize that was a thing because my imagination is noisy. I'd like it to calm down some days, but yeah, she can't visualize, and yet she's a best-selling author. So she's really worked hard to kind of describe how people are when she can't really see it. So
Yeah, maybe that's an advantage for her because she has to put in more effort.
possibly, yeah, you're right. You've really got to think about how to describe it. Whereas if you can already see it, then you could maybe miss things. You might not write down the full scene because you can see it so clearly. You think everyone else can.
Do you plan to come to Europe this year for a signing event and a fan meet?
Look, I'd love to. I'm really, really missing travel, if I'm completely honest. We used to travel every few months, and we haven't been away for 3 years. Yeah, 3 years. So I'm very, very itchy to get on a plane. But unfortunately, that won't be happening, not for the foreseeable future, because we do have a little house rabbit who is special needs. He has too many issues to go into, but let's just say that we can't go anywhere. So as long as he's alive and kicking, which I hope is forever, we cannot go anywhere. And that's commitment. We made a commitment to him, and I will live out that commitment and love every day with him. So, but the day he's lived out a naturally happy life, then yeah, I will start traveling again.
Do you have any signings in New Zealand though? Maybe something local?
No, no. I was on the panel for the Romance Writers of New Zealand, which is up in Wellington. I didn't actually go to that. I was zoomed in. They had a conference, and I was just on the projector. But yeah, that's kind of the only signing event here. There should be some. I agree. Maybe someone should get on that.
Okay. So going back to the Destiny Chronicles, when you came
Mhm.
up with this series, did you know exactly how it was gonna go? Like, do you know how it's gonna end right now?
Yes, yeah. I know what the last book will be, what the last scene of the last book is.
Oh,
So
wow.
everything I do, it leads to that. So yeah.
Is there anything you can share? Like, I guess, without spoilers, but what do you think you can tell us that won't spoil anything? Maybe
Oh,
something we can expect, look forward to?
let's just say so obviously as they learn who they are, Dara realizes that he's death, and Runa believes that she is life. I'm not saying that that's not right. It is, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. They are so much more than just that simple label. Um, and it will take them a while. Well, Dara will realize this by the next book. Um, that's going to be a really dark book, the next one. I'm quite looking forward to writing it. So yeah, he will find out. Basically, when he remembers what he is in entirety, then the reader will kind of be like, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense." And then it will be kind of, how can I say it without spoiling it? I suppose is it a spoiler? The next when Darrow knows what he is, Runa won't, for a reason, and then it becomes an issue of reincarnation, if that makes sense. So Runa will have to kind of go back to the beginning in a way, but not in a way. It's really hard to describe.
It's getting
It's really
complicated.
hard.
Yeah, I mean, the first book was already complicated, so
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll get even more
Yeah,
wild.
it will get more tangled, and then it will start. The knots will start forming correctly, and then it will make a lot of sense. I mean, unless I don't do a good job, and then you're like, what the hell is this book about? Just next. So we shall see.
I'm curious about the different drafts of the book that you mentioned. Like, was there
Hmm.
any huge changes that you had to make between
Massive.
and
Yeah,
yeah.
there's about 240,000 deleted words in this series already. That's
Wow.
why I needed a break, because even though it didn't, I only had one book out last year, well, this year, and I didn't have any out last year. I wrote almost a million words, so it wasn't like I wasn't writing. um, the first three drafts were under the name Souls of Sand and Smoke, which still works very well for where the series is going. And the first 170,000 words, which is basically a full book, I was almost at the end of that book. I scrapped it because I realized I started the story too far in. So that it could technically be, and probably will end up being, book three. So book three is technically already written. And then the next two drafts were under the name When a Moth Loved. And yeah, they were getting close. Each revision was getting me closer to how I wanted to start it. So it was just a long process.
Are there any scenes that you took out that you'll never use? Is there anything you
Oh,
could
always, always. Every single one of my books, there's at least, like, The Girl and Her Wren, that came in at 171,000 words, I believe, or 100. Oh no, The Sun is Hope came in at 173,000 words. The Girl and the Wren came in at 156,000 words, and there's 50,000 words deleted from that. So there's lots of scenes of them getting walked in on by hikers in the forest. Della gets threatened. Wren has to protect her. There's a lot of scenes that I wrote, and then through editing, I get quite ruthless. I probably get a bit too ruthless. It gives me a high to delete as many words as I can. So, so yeah, there's a lot.
yeah, they could be books, like entire books themselves.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, I also read Tears of Tess, and it was amazing. I honestly feel like you
Thank
were
you.
one of the first modern dark romance writers.
Oh, thanks. Oh, that's very nice. I'll take that, definitely.
Yeah, you
No,
were
like I said, very lucky to be on that first wave, which, yeah,
yeah.
and it was probably the first wave that big publishers couldn't really control. Like before that, they were like, no, you get to read sweet Regency romance or women's fiction. That's pretty much all that was on the shelf. And then dark romance got traction, and because it was so taboo and forbidden and not seen before, that's kind of why it exploded as quickly as it did.
Did you ever try to, get published, like, with a traditional publisher, or did you just go straight into indie
Yeah.
writing?
So probably. So, like, so when we owned our own business, I wrote a few books just on my downtime, and then I tried getting an agent, and this is while I was still in Australia. And unfortunately, even back then, like, if you didn't live in America, it's got a lot easier now. Like, even just a few years ago, you couldn't get an account with Barnes and Noble if you weren't in America. So being in New Zealand, my hands have been quite tied, where a lot of authors in America, like for instance, signed paperbacks, like it's so much easier and cheaper for an author in America to say, right, here's my online store, the books are $10 and you get it signed. Can't do that. It's 60, $70 from me, because we pay GST tax on coming in, we pay tax on it going out, the shipping costs, it's just ridiculous. I've completely forgotten the question. What was the question?
Um, did you try to go with a publisher before going
Yes.
into indie
Yeah.
publishing?
So that was the thing. Like, yes, I did try, and it was really hard being in a different country from America. I queried lots of agents, and a lot of them never reply back, which is understandable. To get lots of cold calls. And then one did get back in touch with me and said, yes, we'd be interested. And then nothing happened, and then the self-publishing phenomenon kind of took off. So I was like, well, if they can do it, I can too. So Tears of Tess came out, and then Quintessentially Q, and then When Destroyed came out a few months later. That was the first book of mine to hit the USA Today bestseller list. And then Grand Central Hachette came knocking at my door. and I thought it was spam. I didn't believe it was a legitimate inquiry. I deleted it.
Oh no.
Um, and then I thought, you know what, maybe I should probably reach out. And sure enough, it was real. And then once I had the publishing offer, so I kind of did it backwards. I got the publishing offer contract, and then I went to an agent and said, "Hey, can you help me negotiate this?"
Oh
So,
wow.
so
So
it was
you
self-publishing really opened the doors for me.
that's so interesting. Like they reached
Hmm.
out when you
Yeah.
didn't have an agent.
No, no, I didn't have an agent. I'd given up. I was like, yeah, I don't need them. I'm making headway enough. I'm able to publish what I want when I want without having to answer to anyone. So already by then, I don't like working for anyone else. That's why I opened my own business. Like I was an air hostess when I was 17. I was a travel agent when I was 18, and then at the time I was 19, I owned my own business with my husband. So I've only been in the workforce for 2 years my entire life, and I hated it. I hated taking orders from someone. That's why I've never signed with another publisher, because as lovely and as appreciative as I am from the journey and seeing my books on stores and in airports and things, I like being able to be a lone wolf, basically.
Mm-hmm. Would you ever co-write with an author though?
No, I don't think I would. Again, same reasons.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I value everyone's opinion probably more highly than I should, and I would probably allow myself to go with their vision than my own. I don't do confrontation at all. Um, I'd rather just walk and leave you, and I'd rather choose happy than confrontation. So no,
Mm-hmm.
I probably wouldn't. Even as lovely as a collab would go, yeah, it would be a struggle, I think.
Yeah. If it could work perfectly though, who would your dream author to
I
write with?
love Pam Godwin. I think we'd go quite well together. I love Leonie Taylor. I think we'd go quite well together. And Nalini Singh. I mean, she's a friend, and I just love her books. Like all her fantasy sci changeling series,
Yes.
she's delicious. So
Yeah,
yeah,
she's one of my favorites. But I can
yeah,
definitely see you and Pam Godwin.
yeah. I love Pam. I think she's just got heart of gold, and the way she loves her animals is she's a soul sister. So
What was it like making your own world for the Destiny Chronicles?
awesome. It's like feeling like God. You can uh, say what color the plants are and what the animals look like. And, I've blended a lot of animals into chimeric kind of mutations. And there are reasons for that, which again will come around. But yeah, I loved it. I probably had to rein myself in a few times because I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Let's not do that. So
Are you
that's
going to
good.
add to the Goddess Isle series about Jess and Cal?
Look, I'll never say never. But again, it kind of goes back to my original thing that I don't get inspiration. It comes to me. And unless I get hit over the head with a storyline, I can't write it. And Jess and Cal are very content doing their own thing, having their happy ever after with their island and their children. So I wouldn't say at this point I would, but again, never say never, because I don't know what's going to happen. They might come door knocking on my brain. So possibly.
Yeah, everyone is excited for more from you. Another
Yeah.
question. At the end of Jinx's fantasy, it feels like there is a teaser for more to come with a paradigm purge and a captain named Raven. Is there more to come with this?
Definitely, yes. I already have about 50,000 words on that book. Um, yes, in a nutshell, it is coming. The title was originally The Thief and the Heiress, but I don't know if I'm going to keep that. I don't know if it's a standalone or a trilogy, but Raven, the pirate who steals her, I absolutely love him. Yeah, so that's definitely coming. But again, I can't give a time frame. And for an example, when I wrote, was it think it was hundreds or thousands in the Penny series. It might have been hundreds. No, maybe it was thousands. Um, Elder and Pym go to Hawkswood Hall and they meet Jethro and Nyla. Now, when they're in that ballroom, they meet Sully Sinclair, who was from the Goddess Isles. So I already knew his story was coming, but it took me 4 or 5 years, maybe even longer, to write his story. So there is a lot of foreshadowing in my books of what's coming. So yes, Raven is coming, definitely. Have no fear about that.
Yes, a duet with Nalini. That
That would
would
be
be
awesome. Yeah.
My favorite author. Oh, that's
Oh,
nice.
thank you very much.
How many half books do you have?
Oh, too many. Far too many. I should stop doing that. It's a bad
Yeah,
habit.
50,000
Cost me
words
time and
there,
money.
40,000 words there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my poor laptop. It's got to the point I use Microsoft Word and the version is still version 10. So I'm like freaking a dinosaur in the back, stuck in the dark ages. And it's got to the point where my hard drive's so full of unfinished manuscripts that when I control save when I'm typing, the whole thing goes black for about 5 seconds because Word is like, literally, where do you want me to save this? You've got no space left. So, so I probably should upgrade at some point.
Well, I mean, if it works, it works.
At the moment, touch wood, it keeps working. Because if it crashes and burns, you'll hear me screaming from over there.
I love the fact that you bring those guys all together.
Yes, me too. And like all my worlds are different, but if you go back, they're all connected. Like the Rune of Rule series, Killian meets Jethro, he's in that. Elder meets Jethro, Sully meets Jethro. You know, they're all connected. And now that Q is going to be in the Jewelry Box series, which is his half brother Henry, he's going to feature. Obviously, it's not him in the book, so you know, don't buy it for that. He will be in there, but it's following his half brother story. But the reason why it works that I can link them all together is because they all live in quite a dark, alpha, rich society that, you know, those kind of characters would all kind of stick together. They would all rub shoulders at some point with the nefarious activities that they get up to. So
yeah, it makes it easy for them to have.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I love it. I love being able to bring in someone who's like, oh, let's have him as your best friend. Let's do that.
What music do you usually listen to when you're writing?
I hate this question because it kind of reveals me for who I am. I do playlists for my readers because I know music is very important to life in general. And I used to be a Latin dancer, so I love music and I run on the treadmill to music. And that's where music stops for me. I don't listen to it in my real life. I don't listen to it when I'm writing. It has to be deathly silent. I think that's probably why I have horses and a rabbit because they don't bark. And apart from a couple of neighs, the horses are quiet and the rabbit doesn't make a peep. So I don't listen to anything. And literally, if my husband's on the phone to somewhere in Canada, I have to close 1,000 doors to try and drown out his voice because I'm like, it has to be quiet. So no music. I'm so sorry. That it always seems to
silence.
Silence.
Would you ever write another childhood friends to lovers like Ren and Della?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna let a cat out of the bag. Luna Mare, the standalone I'm writing, that's exactly that.
Oh my gosh.
So yes, so they meet. He's 16 and she's 12. And let's just say the storyline covers how many years? I don't want to say how many years, but let's just say yes, that's coming. And it's coming quick. It's literally pouring out of my fingers. And I think that's probably why it's being written so quickly. Because it is a storyline that I'm madly in love with. And childhood friends to lovers is just my kryptonite. So yeah.
I do love this trope too. Is the heroine also like involved in the whole dark world? Like the hero is there?
Sorry, my earphone fell out then. What was the question?
Oh, is the heroine in the new book that you're writing, is she also involved in the dark?
No, they're completely different. This book won't have any tie-ins and no cameos. It's completely different. Sorry, my husband's dancing around the lawn like a twat. Trying to distract me. No, it's completely different. Think Ren and Della. And it's standalone, and yeah, I just absolutely love it. It's probably my favorite book I've written since Ren and Della.
Well, someone asked what are your favorite books that you've written.
There you go.
How popular dark romance has become.
No, I'm not at all. Because oh god, can you still hear me? Did I turn you off?
You're good.
No. Okay, good. No, not at all. I think dark romance. It was always going to be as big as it was because, again, we were told what we could and could not read. and we're all different, and we all have different, like I said, limits and fantasies, and absolutely nothing wrong with that. So no, I'm glad that it has. In fact, I want to see it bigger. I want it to be as mainstream as every other genre. Like fantasy is still way outstripping dark romance and sci-fi, and it's still dark romance is still a niche when you think about them. So let's get it more mainstream.
Yeah, I think it's on its way slowly.
I think so too, definitely. Yeah.
How do you come up with your book covers?
I'm very lucky that most of the time, when the book unfurls, the cover unfurls. So normally I'm quite loyal to who I work with. Like my editor, Jenny, I've been with her for 12 years. My cover designer, Ari, I've been with her 10 years. However, she isn't doing the cover for Luna Mare. That's from a girl that I stumbled on online. She's a young girl. I think she's in Poland. But she's doing an amazing job. Like the cover for Luna Mare is just, and I stumbled on that image on Unsplash, funny enough, which is you don't have to buy the images, but of course I will because this image is just stunning. So I kind of go for a feel of the cover rather than what's marketable at the time. So even though like there are some manly chest, actually I have never done a bare man chest. I've done a chest like in a suit jacket and things because I find that quite attractive.
You've done the
but yeah, it has to.
Back, right?
True. Yeah, destroyed his back with his tattoos. Yeah. So yeah. So normally, there's not a lot of revisions with my covers. I kind of say, yeah, do that and do this, and then we'll do a tweak, and it'll be done.
Do you read dark romance or any other genres?
I'm really, really, really fussy about reading in the genre I write. Mainly because I'm always afraid that through osmosis you could pick up an idea that isn't yours. So as much as I love the genre to write in, like it's literally my happy place, the more I can make people hurt, that sounds terrible, but I love writing it. I don't necessarily like reading it. So no, I haven't written. Oh, these bloody things keep falling out. I haven't read a dark romance. Oh, I can't remember the last one I read. It was probably a Pam Godwin one, to be honest. So my main genres, if I'm reading fiction, are Regency romance. I love Regency romance. Rom-com, funny enough, I love rom-com. Like a sweet 60,000 word standalone is a great palate cleanser for the stuff I write, the heavy kind of torture stuff, and fantasy. So it's kind of what I stick to.
Who are some of your favorite historical romance authors?
Ooh, well, Julia Quinn, of course. Come on, Bridgerton. I read them when I was quite young. Going right back to the very first kind of kinky book, which isn't a kinky book now, but Danielle Steele when I was about 12. It was just quite funny. I also like books like Dean Koontz. I love kind of his take on his version of fantasy and sci-fi. But yeah, there's a lot of different Regency romance and historical romance, and what was it called? The Girl in the Window. I can't remember the author's name because it's quite different, but it's set in World War II, and that's harrowing but amazing. So great.
Is Tess going to be helping Q on his adventures?
She'll definitely be featuring for sure. Yeah, Q's pretty much joined at the hip with Tess these days. So yeah, you'll be seeing both of them. Yep.
In the new book, right?
In the new book, yep.
Since you wrote your first fantasy book, is there any other genres you'd like to write later in the future?
Oh, again, never say never. I would probably love to write a historical book. I did have an idea back set in World War II, which I never did continue with. I'd love to write a Regency. I think that genre is it's perfect for the alpha male because they get away with so much crap back then that you can just write it and everyone's like, yeah, all right, that's fine. You don't have to justify it in today's society. Oh, he's a prick, and that's not how you'd be treated these days. Like, well, back then, yes, it would be. So, yeah. Shush. So yeah, probably those.
Do you read manga or webtoons?
Never ever. No, I wouldn't even know where to find them, to be honest. I'd love to though. I'd love to get Q and Tess adapted because one of the book boxes, Mixed Book Box, did like a comic strip, And I thought that was freaking awesome. So yeah, I'd love to.
Are you in the near future going to need ARC readers to help with reviews?
Definitely. Like I say, Luna Mare will be coming very soon. Like I'm hoping that will be out by the end of April at the very latest. The minute that this book's done, it's out. I'm not sitting on it like when a Moth Loved to Be. I finished that back in October last year and it didn't come out till February. Just trying to get all my ducks ready and getting all the nice paperbacks done. And I did find that, like we were going back, like being an author, you're not just an author in this world, you're a business manager and a marketing expert and things. And I probably took on too much. You look at other authors who are doing such amazing work and they're tireless, you know, got Kickstarter campaigns and they've got special edition paperbacks and graphic audiobooks. And I was like, okay, well, I need to try and tick off as many of this because this is what readers expect now. And you know what? I don't want to do it. I don't enjoy it. I'm not in a country that allows me to do it easily. So I'm kind of going back to circa 2013, where you finish a book, it's on Amazon, go nuts. And I can't wait for the simplicity of being able to finish a book, be super excited about it, share a couple of teasers, and then it's yours. So that's kind of what my plan is for this. So yes, ARC readers, I'll be needing your help to get the news out. So stay tuned.
I mean, I think readers do appreciate that you just focus on the books because that's at the end of the day what they want.
Exactly. They don't want to know who I am as a person. Who cares? They just want to read a book, which is fair enough. So
in When a Moth Loves a Bee, I love the connection you made with the earth elements and how we should all be one with the earth. Was this connection due to all your yoga practices?
100%, yes. This fantasy book's been in my head for about 5 years, and that was basically how long ago that I had burnout. So 5 years ago, I was writing every hour of the day, and when I wasn't writing, I was online trying to be everywhere at once, which is not sustainable for anyone. And my body and my mind basically said, right, well, if you keep doing this, we're going to kill you. I was having massive panic attacks and palpitations to the point where I've actually now got heart condition. I don't now because I've changed my lifestyle, but so I was like, enough's enough. And then I did turn to yoga as a last resort. I was never ever, if you'd have told me 5 years ago that I'd be a yogi and into meditation and kind of one with earth, I'd be like, get out of here. But 100%, that's how I found me again, and found so much more meaning to life. It's not an endless hamster wheel. And so when this storyline came to my head, it was all about the spiritual aspect. All their powers comes from books that have impacted me. So like Eckhart Tolle, with him being in the power of, being in the present moment, and energies and all the frequencies and all the way we're all connected. We can't see or hear it. Like a dog can hear what we can't hear. If we could hear what a dog could hear, we'd be considered supernatural. So that's basically where this fantasies come from, saying these powers aren't what you typically see in a fantasy book, because they're powers that we all have. And that's what I was saying at the beginning, saying we're all magical, because we are. We just have forgotten how to be. And through my practices and my evolution of kind of tapping into silence and emptying your mind from that monkey mind and being on the hamster wheel, that allowed me to kind of take what is possible for us and amplifying it into a world where anything is possible.
How do you come up with your playlists?
Either from beta readers who will say, oh, this song's perfect, or once I finish the book, I'll just kind of go surfing on YouTube. And I don't really listen to the songs. I read the lyrics. So I always put in like angsty love song with lyrics. And then whatever songs come up, I'll read along. And if it invokes an emotion or fits the characters, then that gets added to the list. So.
And you have a playlist for all your books, right?
All my books, yeah. Because I know that music is a massive part of people's reading experience. So I try and help out with that. Even like say, everyone's got different tastes. Mine doesn't come from music, but I can completely understand where it can really amplify the feeling of a scene if you're listening to a song that kind of embodies that scene. So yeah.
Do you have a release date for Luna Mare yet, or is it still up
I
in the
don't have
air?
a confirmed one. No. Like I want this book done by the end of March, and if I continue how I am, 100% it will be. I have it booked in with my editor, first week of April, and then literally the minute she gives it back to me, it will be flip flop done. Here you go. So I'm hoping mid-April, but who knows? It all depends on my editor's workload. But definitely very very soon.
Yeah, I was just thinking how it's such a tiny gap between when a Moth Loved to Be and
I
then
know. Yeah, this year I'm hoping like so. Luna Mare will be coming out very soon, and then the Jewelry Box series, which is the Monsters in the Dark spin-off, that will be coming out this year. So that's either 3 or 4 books, and that will be every month.
oh wow,
So I'll probably technically have about 4 or 5 releases this year.
you're
Well,
gonna
six
be
actually, six releases. So yeah.
That's about all the questions that I have. If anyone has
Perfect.
any last minute questions before we wrap up, feel free to drop them in the comments. But it was so great chatting with you, Pepper.
You too. Thank you so much for having me on.
And
It
thank you,
was lovely
everyone.
to have a chat.
Yes, thank you to everyone who joined us today and all your great questions. I did want to, I think there was one, oh, funny. Love Pepper. She just keeps it real.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a great comment.
That's me. Yeah, I don't like this is the first time I've put makeup on in months, so you're welcome.
I totally appreciate you as a person and the values that you express through your books and your lifestyle. Love for animals,
Oh, thank
loyalty, being real and original. You are amazing. Hugs from
oh,
Remy.
thank you very much. Well, that means a lot to me. Yeah, I'm not out to be somewhere I'm not, and I would literally do anything for an animal. I'm a bleeding heart completely. So, so that's
Mhm.
nice. Thank you very much.
Yes. All right then. Thank you
Thanks so
everyone
much.
for joining us. If you haven't gotten When a Moth Loved to Be, I have it linked in my description. Definitely read it if you love fantasy or if you love Pepper's books in general. And
Thank you
that's
so much.
it. Bye everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.